Welcome to Vinnie Politan Investigates. Everyone knows drinking and driving is dangerous. The Mothers Against Drunk Driving have done an amazing job through the years to make sure everyone knows that. Now, on a cold, snowy night in Massachusetts, Karen Reed was out drinking with her boyfriend. She was driving, and prosecutors say when she dropped him off, she struck him with the back of her SUV. But prosecutors don't think it's an accident. They say it's murder. Now, I've covered this case in depth on my weeknight show, Closing Arguments, and what you're about to see are some of the most important moments from that program as I investigate the tragic death of Officer John O'Keefe. They show up wearing pink, some of them holding signs. They line the streets cheering on a woman named Karen Reed. She's not a celebrity. She's not a war hero. She's a college professor accused of murdering a Boston police officer named John O'Keefe. John and Karen were a couple who were practically living together. But on the night of January 28th, going into the early mornings of the 29th, they were out together. First at C.F. McCarthy's in downtown Canton, Massachusetts. Then at the Waterfall Bar. And finally, inside Karen's SUV in front of Brian Albert's house, who was having an after party with a bunch of the folks who were at the waterfall. The big question is, what happened to John O'Keefe after he stepped out of Karen's car? Prosecutors say she backed over him on purpose and drove away, leaving him in the snow to die. Karen says that's not true and believes John went into that after party, got ambushed, and was placed onto the front lawn to die in the cold. She also believes the people in the house, along with state and local police, framed her for John's murder. Tonight, we are live from the courthouse where the jury saw videos from inside the bars today. What do they show? What do they prove? We'll bring in our experts to answer those questions as we continue our investigation into the tragic death of Officer John O'Keefe. I want to bring in a special guest joining us in Southborough, Massachusetts, DUI expert and attorney Brian Cimino. Brian, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Great to have you on the program.
My pleasure, Vinny. Great to be here.
Okay, I want to go through some of the information that we have. Obviously, we'll get more as this trial continues, actually put on the record. But let's talk about the level of intoxication or potential intoxication and what information is needed to determine this for the jury. Let's start with John O'Keefe that night. We know he's about 6'2", about 220 pounds. Testimony about plus or minus 6 beers at C.F. McCarthy's when he's there for a couple hours, starting at 7:40, is seen with an alcoholic drink or a beer in his hand at the Waterfall Bar and Grill from 11 to 12. So at a minimum, we're looking at maybe 6 or 7 drinks in that time frame. 6'2", 220. What information would you need, and do you think they'll be able to determine his level of intoxication at the time of his death?
Yeah, so standard protocol in a case like this is that they will take blood. I'm sure they took blood as part of the autopsy. I'm not sure, because he was frozen out in the cold for so long, how productive that blood test will be, but a blood draw obviously is part of the postmortem examination, and I'm sure that was done, and that will hopefully yield some result. I don't know what that will be. We'll see as the evidence comes in. I know the medical examiner is going to testify, and his blood alcohol content will certainly be part of this, but more importantly is obviously the defendant's blood alcohol content, Karen Reed's BAC. She's charged with manslaughter by operating under the influence, and the blood alcohol content is obviously part of that. They need to prove that she was under the influence at approximately 12:45 a.m. when she allegedly struck Mr. O'Keefe.
Yeah, so let's put that up on the board. Some of the information that we know, and we got some information here. Could be off by a little bit, but it's from a trusted source. She's about 5'4", about 98 pounds or so. Her ethanol results from the blood reading on January 29th at 9:08 is 93 mg/dLs. I don't know what that stands for, right. Milligrams per something, right? Now,
it stands for milligrams per deciliter.
Okay. Does that number mean something to you? That number, that 93?
Yeah, it does.
Explain to us what it means to you.
Sure. So what they're saying is that's her BAC based on the blood that was drawn, and that blood was drawn at approximately, I want to say 9:08 a.m. is when that blood was drawn from the Good Samaritan Hospital. She's alleged to have struck Officer O'Keefe with her vehicle at approximately 12:45 p.m. So the question is, what was her blood alcohol level at 12:45 p.m.? And the way the Commonwealth is going to try to prove that is with an expert witness and what's called retrograde extrapolation, which is basically fancy language for taking her BAC at a known time, which is when the blood was drawn at 9:08 a.m., and then working backwards using what's called the Woodmark formula to determine what her blood was at the time that Officer O'Keefe was allegedly struck, which was 12:45 a.m.
Okay, let's put on the screen what the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab toxicologist is talking about here. Performed a serum conversion and retrograde extrapolation, just like you said. Their opinion, or his opinion, Karen Reed's blood alcohol at 9:08 on the 29th was between 0.07 and 0.08 from his serum conversion analysis, and gives an estimate that her blood alcohol at 12:45 a.m. would have been between, and this is a pretty big range, 0.13 and 0.29%. So first of all, tell us the significance of these numbers and what they mean in terms of how someone is acting and how they can drive, et cetera, when you're talking about 0.07 to 0.08 versus 0.13 to 0.29.
So 0.08 is the legal limit in Massachusetts, and that's the Commonwealth's burden is to prove that she was operating at that level, which would mean that she was under the influence. But obviously, there's a huge range between a 0.13 and a 0.29, and that is based on extrapolation done by a blood test taken 8.5 hours after the incident. So that's a lot of time to have to account for. And the Commonwealth filed a motion to admit this evidence, this retrograde extrapolation evidence. The defense is objecting to that. The judge hasn't ruled on that. If I were to predict, I believe she will allow it to come in, but I think they're going to have some issues. This will be another so-called battle of the experts, not only with respect to the blood retrograde extrapolation, but how it was collected. I don't think it might not have been collected the way that evidentiary blood would be collected. So I think that's going to be another challenge. But yeah, 0.13 to 0.29 is a huge range. I think at that level, you're definitely exhibiting signs and symptoms of intoxication, glassy bloodshot eyes, slurred speech, difficulty, with thought processes and things of that nature. And I didn't hear any testimony to that effect from the police officers who first encountered her. She was distraught, she was hysterical, but I didn't hear any sort of telltale signs of being under the influence, glassy bloodshot eyes or anything like that. And I don't think there was any testimony today. The bartender who actually served the drinks says that, she was not inebriated, she was not overserved, she was not exhibiting signs of alcohol intoxication when she left the bar.
Coming up next.
They were affectionate toward each other, loving towards each other, and to the point where my wife even made a comment, why are you not like that with me?
This is true crime all the time.
We are live in courtrooms across the country.
We continue our gavel-to-gavel coverage.
This is what I love to do. Surveillance cameras are everywhere and capture images of us almost every time we leave our homes. Karen Reed was captured on camera at the bars she was drinking at the night her boyfriend John O'Keefe died. Here's more of our investigation.
You saw in the video when Miss Reed actually walked into the location how Miss Reed and Mr. O'Keefe greeted each other. It appeared that was quite an affectionate greeting. Did you agree?
Objection.
Do you agree with that?
They kissed. Yeah.
Would you consider a kiss affectionate?
Yes.
They hugged each other, correct?
I don't recall.
They seemed happy to see each other.
Yes.
You didn't observe while you were at CF McCarthy's with them, you didn't observe any arguing or bickering between the two of them?
No.
As a matter of fact, they were sort of the normal, affectionate, laughing, happy couple that you were used to seeing, correct?
Yes.
There didn't seem to be any tension between them at CF McCarthy's, is that right?
Not that I recall.
So that's at C.F. McCarthy's. That's the first bar that John and Karen are at. They're there together for about 2 hours, and they go across the street to the waterfall. And again, another one of John O'Keefe's friends witnessing how these two are interacting. Let's take a listen.
You knew that Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed had rekindled a previous relationship from years earlier.
Yes, I did. They were affectionate toward each other, loving towards each other, and to the point where my wife even made a comment, why are you not like that with me?
That's just 1 hour. 1 hour before the murder. Let's bring in our guests. Joining us, criminal defense attorney Joseph Krowski Jr. Also joining us, Karen Reed supporter and expert Nick Rocco, and YouTube creator behind Yellow Cottage Tales, Kevin Lanahan, is with us as well. Great to see everyone tonight. Joseph, I'll start with you. What are you seeing in the bar? I mean, this is 1 hour before an alleged murder, and everyone's saying, you know, the wife is saying, I wish you were more like John and Karen.
My wife says the same thing. Look, here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing really a tragedy. It looks to me like this was a lot of good people having a good night. You know, they're police officers. They should have a cautionary tale. They should have known you don't mix alcohol and getting into a car. But I will say you had an excellent guest on last week that talked about this should have never been charged as a murder case. And I think any suggestion that there was going to be compelling, overwhelming evidence of a hostile relationship and motive for Karen Reed to kill John O'Keefe was basically washed out the door today. Nothing that the niece and nephew can say are going to change that. But likewise, the same people that are outraged that Karen Reed is accused of killing someone have absolutely defamed and disparaged people like Jen McCabe. She was in those videos as well. She was hugging Karen Reed. She was interacting with everyone. All of them were interacting with one another. So the suggestion that Karen Reed committed a murder, I think, is absurd. Likewise, the suggestion that anyone in that house committed a murder is absurd. The glass is interesting because, look,
we'll get to the glass in a second, Joseph. We'll get to it in a second.
Sorry.
Well, no, it's fine. I love the passion. We all love the passion. Nick Rocco, your thoughts?
I mean, we all heard it today. The Commonwealth was trying to bring this theory forward that there was a toxic relationship, and everybody on the stand today who witnessed them that night said no bickering. They were lovey-dovey. One woman wishes her husband acted the way that John was acting towards Karen. I mean, as far as them breaking up and quote-unquote, Lally says, what happens behind closed doors, what all the witnesses said today is going to prove, and just like Joe said, no matter what the kids say on stand, their relationship was not falling apart. They were excited for a vacation they were going on. She was speaking very highly of John. So you want the people to believe that a 5-minute drive from the Waterfall Bar to 34 Fairview went from lovey-dovey to I'm going to kill you? Don't think so.
Kevin?
I think it adds to the state's credibility here that they're bringing forth witnesses not to just push a very black and white narrative, but to give you the truth. So another thing that we noticed here is last summer, Karen said that she was not invited to the house and wasn't even sure that she heard that anybody was invited to the house. But we heard testimony today that she was specifically invited, in fact, by Jen McCabe, and that everybody there was invited. So there goes the idea that the defense opened up by saying that John was ambushed in that invite. No. Everybody was invited to the after-hours party.
Well, let's take a listen to testimony from one of John's friends talking about that invitation.
There was discussion about, well, I think Jen McCabe brought up, let's go to my sister's house.
And is that somewhere that you or your husband, to your knowledge, had ever been to before?
We had never been to her house before, no.
And was that something that was sort of a private invitation, or was that sort of open to the group at the table?
I think it was said out loud, like, hey, anybody wants to go, we can go to my sister's on Fairview. I wasn't specifically invited myself. I just think it was put out there.
And did either yourself or your husband take anyone up on the invitation? Did you go to Fairview after the waterfall?
We did not go. I actually said to him, there's no way we're going anywhere. We're going home. Karen went over to John, something like that. He like put his arm around her. I don't know if they had a conversation, they talked. It seemed like they were like quite lovey-dovey at that point. And then that's when Jennifer McCabe went up to Karen and said, "You're coming with me." Like, and she like grabbed her, like she put her arm around her and she said in front of me, she's like, "You're coming with me, you're coming with me."
Nick, sounds like Jennifer McCabe's kind of friendly there.
Well, I mean, what did we see in that video? We saw Brian Higgins and Brian Albert fake fighting. So John wasn't there at that moment. You know, there's a reason why Jen wanted Karen to go with her. I'm sure there was a plan to rough John up. Now, I don't think anybody intended to kill him, but there was a plan to rough him up. I mean, these two guys, who does that at that age? I mean, you know, I'm 29 years old and I don't even do that in the bar with my friends. That's childish behavior right there.
Still to come.
If you can find a cocktail glass, you know, in the snow, how did you miss a size 12 shoe?
Every episode of Accomplice to Murder.
Who is the puppet?
She was a master manipulator.
And who's pulling the strings?
Accomplice to Murder. Memorial Day Marathon. Starting Monday morning, 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
From these different pieces, Ms. Hardens also locates a cocktail glass that's located on the bumper or the rear area of that scene, and she locates a human hair on the back of that defendant's vehicle as well. Now, the cocktail glass on the bumper, you also see surveillance video from the waterfall, and Mr. O'Keefe is observed on that surveillance video essentially walking out of the waterfall with a cocktail glass in his right hand. Same right hand that has minor injuries to it, and the same right hand that's attached to his right arm that has the abrasions and lacerations.
Evidence recovered at a crime scene is significant. Sometimes it can tell a story that no witness can tell. At the scene of John O'Keefe's death, there was a broken cocktail glass. What story does that glass tell? Take a look at him. He's walking here. Look at his right hand. Has something in the right hand. Obviously, it's always grainy, this surveillance video. Right here he is outside still with something in his hand. So the question is this the same glass that we saw in court from Lieutenant Michael Lank, pulled out of the evidence bag? Is it the same? Where did this glass come from? We know it's from the scene, but where did it come from? Where was it filled with alcohol or whatever was inside that glass? Was it at the Waterfall Bar? Was it somewhere else? Is it the same glass? Let's bring back in our guests, Joseph Krowski Jr., Nick Rocco, Kevin Lanahan. Nick, what are your thoughts about this, the glass that's found at the scene that we see in evidence versus what is in John O'Keefe's right hand?
Right. I mean, most likely it is the glass from the bar. And when he got out of Karen's vehicle and he went inside the house, which his Apple Health data shows that he went up 3 flights of stairs, and Karen's Apple Health data shows no flights of stairs. He goes inside the house, a fight breaks out, the glass falls and breaks. So whatever John went inside that house with needed to be put outside. There's one problem with that, though. They didn't realize his shoe was missing when they put him outside, and that's why the Canton Police Department didn't find his shoe at 6 in the morning with 4 inches of snow on the ground. They found his shoe at 6 p.m. with a foot of snow on the ground. So if you can find a cocktail glass, you know, in the snow, how did you miss a size 12 shoe? Like, when those police officers left the scene, somebody searched that house, they found stuff, and it ended up outside. Because there's no way the Canton Police Department would miss that shoe. And if
is that after attacking him inside, they brought the glass outside, the broken pieces, and the black straw, but yet they didn't bring the shoe out. That seems a little bizarre to me. But the reason I want to freeze, if you can at some point point out that little scene outside the bar where he's carrying that glass, I wanted to point out that there's a solid dusting of snow on top of that car outside. And the reason that's important to me, and I noticed that today, is because later on, yes, right there. So later on, when John is in the yard, if it continues to snow lightly like this off and on for the next couple of hours, he's going to be covered in a light layer of snow in an area where there's no street light. And so somebody walking or driving on that street, their peripheral vision is not going to really catch something that's lying still, that's partly black and partly covered in snow, and is surrounded by other objects to distract your peripheral vision, such as the flagpole, the fire hydrant, the bushes, the trees, and that kind of stuff.
Joseph Krowski Jr. Joseph, what are your thoughts? How significant is the cocktail glass in all of this?
Really significant because, again, the Furman effect with Trooper Proctor, and we probably need a whole episode to get into that. But there's a suggestion that he planted evidence, including the tail light. He would not have known when he first got to the scene that there would be video surveillance taken from the Waterfall Bar and Grill depicting John O'Keefe carrying a glass that most likely is the same glass from the bar. So now the theory has to stretch to he planted the pieces of tail light, he planted the hair from the head, and then other people in the house took it upon themselves on a moment's notice to gather up the glass and plant it out front. So again, I think the piece of glass is a really important piece of evidence. Again, not to show it was murder, but to show that there is a chance that this was an accident.
When prosecutors charge someone with homicide, they have to show that the accused is responsible for the death. But there are different levels of homicide depending upon the circumstances connected to the death. In the case of Karen Reed, if the jury believes her car struck John O'Keefe, the crucial question becomes, was it intentional or was it an accident? I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks for joining the investigation, and I'll see you weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Welcome to Vinnie Politan Investigates. Chad Daybell was a self-proclaimed prophet who was preparing for the end of times. He wasn't doing it alone. He had followers in his cult. Lori Daybell was his biggest, but there were others, and their stories provide amazing insight into how this cult ended up in the middle of so much death. I've covered this case in depth on my weeknight show, Closing Arguments, and what you're about to see are some of the most important moments from that program as I investigate the bizarre world of the Doomsday couple, Chad and Lori Daybell.
Yes, Lori said Chad had told her previous lives, and in a previous life, they had been married, and he was James DeLess, and that she was his wife, and her name in that life was Helena. He told me that he was able to read people's past lives, and he wanted to give me, I guess it was like a reading of what my past lives were. And so he gave me all the times that I had been upon the earth before. He told me who I was, about when it had been. And then he also gave me a rating of, I think it was something like a 4.2 light or something similar to that.
At that time, were you open to the idea?
I was sort of open to it. Chad said that Tammy was going to die early, and he had related before that he had a portal in his house where he would get information or communication from the spirit world, where he would get instructions and information and knowledge. Through this portal, he was getting information such as that Tammy was going to die soon. Alex told me about what Chad had told him in his blessing, that he was going to be a warrior and that he was going to be one of the warriors that was going to fight, because there was going to be invasions from other countries into the United States, and that Rexburg was going to be a place of safety, and that Alex was going to play a key role in being one of the warriors and defenders of that area.
How did Alex seem to feel about that information?
He bought into it 100%.
Did Alex ever say anything to you about what he would want done if he became a zombie?
He told me, Sulema, if I ever turn into a zombie, just shoot me in the face. He had seen them right before he came down to Arizona, but then after that, they weren't answering his texts or his calls. He said, can you believe that they're being such jerks now that after I helped them, now they don't even want to talk to me?
Do you recall Alex getting a call on December 11th?
Yes, Chad and Lori called him to tell him that Tammy's body was being exhumed. He started saying certain things to me that didn't make any sense at the time. So one of the things that he said is, I think I'm going to be their fall guy. As I was walking out of the room after he's not explaining anything to me, he said, Sulema, either I am a man of God or I am not.
All right, let me bring you my special guest, a religious cult expert, retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, and the author of the book Deceived, Mike King, joining us. Mike, what an important witness, what an important day. But really, I guess what prosecutors are trying to do is take the jury inside of Chad Daybell's world and this so-called cult.
I'm with you, Vinny, and I love the fact that you brought out that these witnesses still need to be coached a little bit on what court is all about and how much you answer a question. I thought she did a great job. I thought she was a credible witness. Could you imagine getting sucked into something like this goofy ideology and then hopefully getting your mind cleared up, but having to go into a court of law with the world watching and tell everyone, I actually believed all this stuff, but now I can see a little clearer. And it's a great reminder to us of how seemingly intelligent people can get sucked into these cults if the cult leader finds them at the right moment, if the cult leader somehow gives them a sense of purpose, like you can change the weather or you can have visions on your own. And when they instill that kind of power and control for these people, they stick with it because it's fortifying them emotionally and gives them this sense of purpose and greatness. And boy, once a cult leader can get people to align with them, they can go anywhere. And in this case, if everything that we're learning is true, they did go everywhere.
Now, another part of Zulema in her life is that she marries Lori's brother, Alex Cox, who is, I mean, from all the evidence that's coming out in this trial and in the first trial, he's like the hitman. He's the one taking people out. We know he took Charles Vallow out, but it seems like that is exactly where prosecutors have gone and are going. So how do you think the combination of those two factors, that she marries this guy, Lori's brother, the hitman?
I found a couple of things really interesting in today's testimony in regard to Alex Cox and Zulema. Number one is that she says in testimony, I only dated him 2 or 3 times before I married him. So this whirlwind romance, probably arranged, seems consistent with what we see with Melanie and I can't remember, Plasky, I think is the name, and please forgive me, but a short-term marriage, and then they're married. With Chad and Lori, a short-term period of time, and then they're married. So it's like these arranged things are happening. And then the other thing that I thought was so critical in regard to Alex is that she says, and she admits that she has some immunity, which really made me wonder, and I would love your thoughts, Vinny, but that he then says, hey, they're going to make me a fall guy. He's all but making the greatest admission I've ever heard. But then he said something that reminded me of another serial predator that I interviewed in prison, Vinny, who said to me, I'm either a prophet or I'm a criminal. And Alex said almost the same thing. I'm either doing what God told me to do or I'm in big trouble.
Coming up next.
He's my son. I adopted him. He was 2 years. We had him from the time he was 8 months old till 2 years old. So she does nothing and wants to cause me trouble. So I don't tell people the truth about where we are and what we're doing because of those reasons. So I look like a suspect, but I'm a good person. Raised all of my kids. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do in life. But everyone is causing me trouble right now.
This is true crime all the time.
We are live in courtrooms across the country.
We continue our gavel-to-gavel coverage.
This is what I love to do. Lori Daybell moved her children out of Arizona after her husband was shot and killed by her brother. She moved to Idaho, and her home there was also a murder house. Here's more of our investigation as we take a video tour.
But you have legal custody. He's my son. I adopted him. He was 2 years. We had him from the time he was 8 months old till 2 years old. So she does nothing and wants to cause me trouble. So I don't tell people the truth about where we are and what we're doing because of those reasons. So I look like a suspect, but I'm a good person. Raised all of my kids. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do in life. But everyone is causing me trouble right now.
At some point after Lori and Alex and the children moved to Idaho, did you end up visiting Lori?
I did.
Do you recall approximately when that was?
The weekend of September 22nd.
And was that of 2019?
Correct.
When you came to Idaho, where did you end up staying?
At Lori's house.
Do you recall the last time you saw JJ?
It was the Sunday night, the 22nd.
What was happening the last time you saw him, if you remember?
I was in the house, Lori's house, and I was doing a recording with Lori and David, and Alex walked in the door holding JJ on his shoulder and was taking him to bed. He had fallen asleep.
And did you see where Alex put JJ to bed?
No.
Do you know which room JJ normally slept in?
He often slept with his mom in the corner of her room. There was a little spot that she would put a bed in there for him. But he also had his own bedroom too.
Did he sleep in his bedroom that night?
No.
And how do you know that?
Because I was in that bedroom, then JJ's bedroom, so he wasn't in there.
And you talked earlier, you were going to stay in Tylee's room.
Right.
Can you tell us why you ended up in JJ's room?
So I was, slept often in Tylee's room. And then when David got there, him and we were in the same room that night together talking and reading scriptures and going to bed.
So did David have his things in JJ's room?
Yeah.
So was it your understanding JJ was put to bed in Lori's room that night?
Yes.
Did you in fact try to contact Chad?
Yes.
How did you try to contact him?
Text or phone call.
Did he respond?
No.
And would this have been in the early morning hours?
Sometime in the early morning.
Did you attempt to make contact with Lori?
Yes.
And how did you try to do that?
The same, text and phone call. And then I went to her room to see if she was there and it was locked.
Did she respond to the text or phone call?
No.
And then her bedroom door was locked?
Correct.
You have no way to know who was on the other side?
No.
Did anyone ever open the door for you?
No.
And you said that was on the 22nd.
Correct.
Did you see JJ the next day?
No.
Did you ever see JJ again?
No.
Never saw JJ again. The last day he was seen alive, there's a photo. I want to show you that photo right now. This is the JJ in his red PJs, September 22nd, the last day that he was seen alive. So now what I want to do is show you some video as investigators are going into Lori's home after she has taken off and eventually makes her way to Hawaii with Chad. So here they are going through the home that was just described by Melanie Gibb.
Staircase going up to the second level of the home, 175. To the left, at the top of the landing, it's like master bedroom, bed, a bath and closet area. Like there was some electronic devices on these at one time. I can see dust imprints of what appears to be computers. Here is a printer. Coming out of the master bedroom, a hall adjoining a laundry room to the right. Continuing down the hall to the left, a furnace, water heater, closet. Opposite that is a bathroom. Continuing down the hall, 2 bedrooms. One to the south, one to the north of the hallway. This is the one to the south. A single bed, a double bed, a closet containing a couple coats, 1 empty box, a fan, some empty hangers, what appears to be a bedspread, and this box here that appears to have possibly winter clothes, female winter clothes inside. Continuing to the other bedroom, we have, this is the one to the north. We have a bed, appears to be some bedding on the floor. We have 3 cases here, all containing guitars. It looks like a duffel bag full of toiletry items that would appear to be belong to a male subject due to the cologne and so forth inside. This closet is also fairly barren. Looks like there are 2 samurai swords inside the closet, empty laundry basket, another basket containing some odds and ends of some sort. Nothing else in this room.
Still to come.
The testimony is that JJ slept in his mom's room, but I would be surprised if there was that much nurturing going on. But the thing that really jumped out at me is I had flashbacks of walking through Charles Vallow's home, Vinny, and boxes and clothing were stashed in a similar way. Like these children were living out of a box or a small amount of clothing. It just seemed really different from what I remember our kids' rooms looking like when they were growing up.
There's no way, Lori, and I can ever come up with this.
We are underway in the trial of Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty.
It's the Doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial.
Understanding the world of the Doomsday couple and their followers is not easy. That's why we need some help from a cult expert and a member of Lori Daybell's family. All right, let's bring in our guest, still with us, religious cult expert, retired police commander Mike King, and joining us now, cousin of Lori Vallow and author of the book, I Walked Through the Fire to Get Here, Megan Connor, back with us. Megan, interested in your thoughts walking through Lori's home there and what we saw and what we didn't see. What sort of struck you?
Well, definitely kind of the disarray. You know, we know that they left in a hurry, the lack of any children's clothes or children's items really that, you know, would have been there if the kids had been living there on a regular basis. And it's kind of chilling to watch the police go through there, you know, just after they had disappeared and realize kind of just helps bring home what was really going on there.
Mike, your thoughts about walking through the home. Do you feel like you're walking through the scene of a murder?
You know, the thing that's so troubling to me, it's pretty clear to see which room was Alex's. It must be that Tylee and JJ were in a room together. Vinny, maybe that was because he trusted his sister so much. Maybe that was a source of comfort for him. I know the testimony is that JJ slept in his mom's room, but I would be surprised if there was that much nurturing going on. But the thing that really jumped out at me is I had flashbacks of walking through Charles Vallow's home, Vinny, and boxes and clothing were stashed in a similar way. Like these children were living out of a box or a small amount of clothing regardless. And then, you know, especially in Charles's home, we get to where Lori's clothes are and other things, and we see a massive amount of clothing. It just seemed really different from what I remember our kids' rooms looking like when they were growing up.
Megan, and when police came the day before and they said, you know, doing the welfare check, and Lori is just explaining why she lies and moves around a lot and is talking very quickly. Did you ever see your cousin act that way before? Like with that fast kind of talking and like, whoo, I'm all over the place?
Yeah, that was very typical of the way that Lori talked all the time, whether she was telling the truth or not. It seemed like she was pretty quick on her feet with, you know, lies and half-truths, and she mixed in a little bit of truth there. And it was interesting to see how animated that she got talking about the money and the life insurance policy that she didn't receive. But when they were asking about the kids, or at least asking about JJ, she didn't seem, you know, too invested in that part of it. Great. She was much more focused on getting attention for losing the money.
Great observation. Mike, there was, as they were walking through the tour there was an image that was on the wall there. And I'm not wondering if it has any significance, if you recognize it, does it have any meaning?
Yeah, I do recognize that, Vinny. It looks like one of the Latter-day Saint temples, which would go very well with this theme that they had, not only formerly Latter-day Saint members before they were excommunicated, but this idea that everything is ritually based, everything is a perversion of that mainstream belief system into the ideology that they were promoting. And so not shocking at all to see something like that and see it so well placed. And you think back to testimony that, for instance, Melanie Gibb gave when she talked about an image of Jesus Christ on top of a refrigerator or something that JJ reportedly knocked off. I think this religious or religiosity was probably thematic throughout the entire home.
Mike King, Megan Connor, we're out of time for tonight, but really appreciate your insight. Again, Megan Connor, I walked through the fire to get here. Great to see you both. The broken trust of a parent who causes harm to a child is perhaps the most devastating of all crimes. It goes against every instinct running through our DNA. But it happened here. The lingering question is exactly why? Was it mental illness, greed, sex, a warped sense of religion, a need for power, and the need to be the center of attention? Well, in the case of Lori Daybell, the answer seems to be yes, all of the above. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks for joining the investigation, and I'll see you weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments.